All right, here we go. Day 2. Executive branch.
It's the first thing.
The job of the executive branch is to do what with laws? Enforce laws. Good. Okay. Good. In the executive branch, the head of the executive branch is who?
The president.
The president. Okay. The president is basically the CEO of the United States. He is the chief executive of the United States. Okay. Roles of the president has what term? How long can you serve for?
4
4-year
years.
term. Does he have a term limit?
2.
Yep. 2-term limit. Okay. If the president replaces somebody, so if you come in the middle of someone else's term, you then could go for longer, right? So for example, if Hillary Clinton became president and if she resigned or if she dies in office and Tim Kaine takes over, then he could finish her term and then go for 2 more terms of his own, okay? That obviously has changed somewhat recently. FDR had it much longer, okay? You must be 35. So if you notice, the House is 25, the Senate is 30, the President is 35, okay? So you get older and older, okay? You must have been a resident of the United States
12.
for 14 years, okay? And you must be a natural-born citizen, okay? This is the one job that you cannot have been an immigrant and have become an American citizen. You must be born a United States citizen, okay? When you are the president, your jobs that you have, okay, is you can make treaties. You can make those treaties with foreign governments. Those treaties must be approved by whom?
Congress.
The Senate. Okay, specifically the Senate. Okay. You can, if you're the president, approve or veto laws. If you veto a law, what can the Congress do?
Push it through anyway with the 2/3 vote.
Good. What do we call that? It's not push it through. Override the veto. Okay. The president nominates judges who must approve those. The Senate. Okay. As we just talked about. They must appoint cabinet. They can appoint cabinet members who must approve that.
Senate.
Senate. Okay. They are the commander-in-chief of the military. They are the head of the military. Okay. The president and the vice president are not directly elected by the American people. Okay? The reason why is because we have the Electoral College. What happens is, during the primaries, you elect electors from your party. These are usually people that are sort of in politics on some level, but they're regular people. Okay? They go, we as a state vote, whoever we vote for as a state, the electors should then vote for as president. They do not have to, but they should. Okay? And what will happen is then they will select. In order to win, you must have 270 electoral votes. Okay? 270 is the magic number. If you end up with 269, that means your opponent has 269, and then you have a tie. If you have a tie, what will happen is then the House of Representatives ends up voting. They select. Okay? That has happened before. We will talk about that historically. In today's world, the internet would explode if you ended up with a tie, I have a feeling. Okay? Previously, for the first election, the president and the vice president were not selected in the same ticket. So as you're going to see later this week, what we end up having in 1796 is you have John Adams as president and Thomas Jefferson as vice president, and they don't like one another. They're from different political parties. It's the equivalent of if Hillary Clinton won, Donald Trump being her vice president, which you can imagine leads to problems. Okay, that has been changed. Okay, the 12th Amendment comes in there. That will change that. Okay, the succession of the presidency. Okay, if the president were to die, who takes over?
Vice.
The vice president. After the vice president, does anyone know who is next? Speaker of the House. Good. Following the Speaker of the House, we have a really kind of random job, which is the President pro tempore. Of the Senate. And to be honest, I don't know who that person is. Okay. And then following that is you have the secretaries of the cabinet from the oldest cabinet position in American history to the newest. So the next is going to be the Secretary of State. And then it goes down from there. All right. During the State of the Union address, okay, when the president will speak, right? This is the lone survivor thing that's Kiefer Sutherland's in right now, right? What they will do is they will make sure that one person in the succession chain is not at the speech. The idea being is that if somebody drops a bomb and blows up Washington, D.C., we have somebody in our government chain that would step in and be the leader.
There's a show about that.
Right, that's a new show that just came out.
What's it
And Lone Survivor, yeah, it's Kiefer Sutherland, okay?
No, Jack Bauer.
Right, yeah, pardon me, right? So, okay, this is the main, this is the order of what we have, okay? Questions about that stuff? The president has the ability, has the right to give a State of the Union address every year, all right? Washington starts that process, okay? Doesn't have to, but he can, okay? If the president does bad, he can be impeached. I'm going to have to work on my pronouns, possibly in the next couple weeks, right? To stop saying he as it goes there. Impeachment, okay? If you are impeached, okay, there are only 2 crimes, all right, that you can be impeached for. And they are treason, bribery, that's spelled right? B-R-I-B-E-R-Y, yeah. Or high crimes and misdemeanors.
That's 3.
I know, but this is the specific ones that are listed, okay? And really, treason is the big one, okay? What this means is that you cannot be impeached for political reasons, all right? So when Andrew Johnson is impeached following the Civil War, he is found not guilty of his impeachment because the reason he was impeached was because the Republicans disagreed with what he was doing, okay? Bill Clinton was not found guilty of his impeachment because he did not fall under these categories. So there is a precedent that says that you must have done one of these things in order to be convicted of impeachment. Yes, Emily, question.
No, I was just gonna ask what each person you had been tried for impeachment.
So just those 2, right? And Nixon resigned before he was given the issue. The only crime that is listed within the Constitution is treason. Okay? That is the only crime that is specifically listed within the Constitution, and it's the only one that is defined by it. Okay? It is also important to note that if you commit treason in the United States, your family or your descendants cannot be held responsible for your actions. Right? So if I was to sell secrets to North Korea, I could be punished. My children, my wife, they would not be. All right? They cut it off right there.
So what's the punishment?
It depends on what you've done, but the death penalty is, if you commit treason, is probably your expectation. Although it depends. Now treason is being, you could argue that Snowden committed treason, right? The NSA stuff. And I don't think he would get the death penalty if he came back, but he would probably be thrown to jail forever, right? But either way, it's not that. It's not good. You don't want to commit treason. Okay. Okay. Questions about that? All right. I made one little mistake. Okay. This treason piece, that's in the judicial branch. Okay. So not a huge deal, but questions about the executive branch before I go to the judicial branch? Yeah.
When a president is impeached and found guilty, does the order continue in the same way?
If the president would be impeached, then the vice president would take over.
So it's in the same way.
Correct. Yeah.
So the president can't be impeached for treason?
The president can be impeached for treason. Treason, bribery, high crimes, and misdemeanors.
What would be a high crime or misdemeanor?
If you kill somebody,
Oh.
right? I mean, that kind of, if you do something like that. All right, judicial branch. Role of the judicial branch with regards to laws is to do what? Enforcement is the,
Judge of their constitution.
what's that? Interpret, okay? Which is judging constitutionality. Interpret laws. Okay? So, when you have, okay, the justices of the Supreme Court, what you have, if you are a Supreme Court justice, you serve for life. Okay? The purpose of doing this is to make it non-political. That once you serve, you do not have to worry about making a decision and then being re-elected. There are many people in the United States who feel that this is a bad thing. Supreme Court justice. Okay? Their biggest job is to declare a law unconstitutional. That's by far their biggest job. Okay? They settle disputes among states. Okay? They also settle disputes between the United States and others. Yeah.
Will there be a question about how many people are on the Supreme Court, and will that be currently?
There will not be a question about that.
Okay.
So, no. That would be more of a, no, there won't be. Okay? And then the Chief Justice presides over impeachment hearings. So what we have, right, the impeachment is you are impeached by the House, you are tried by the Senate, the Chief Justice is in charge of all of it, so both other branches of government are involved in the process. Okay? Federal courts hear federal law, state courts hear state laws. Okay? So you have to commit a federal crime to go into a federal court. A federal crime would be dubbed something that is happening across state lines. Okay? So if I kill Gabe, all right, that would be in a state court. Okay. If I kidnap Nathan and take him to Wisconsin, I have now crossed state lines, so now it can be charged in a federal court. Okay?
Are federal charges normally like
Harsher. You do not want a federal case. Federal courts, federal prisons, all that stuff are usually much more painful.
So if I'm gonna kill somebody, do it here.
Correct. Don't move the body.
No,
Yeah.
kill him here and go to
So-
Canada ready.
Like, that was my question, like, would it still be a federal crime if you cross from
Yes.
another country?
Yes, because then you're dealing with extradition. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay. Within the government, the right of laws extend from one state to another. Okay. So if a judgment is rendered in one state in Minnesota, it in theory should extend to citizens of other states, unless there's a different law. Okay. So for example, marijuana, right? Marijuana is legal in Colorado. It is not legal in Wyoming. Therefore, because there are two specific laws, right, they butt up. But if there's not a law in one state and there's a law in the other state, then that law will carry over. Okay. Extradition. Okay. If you run away, hang on a second. If you run away from state A to state B, right? If you go from Minnesota to Wisconsin after killing somebody, Minnesota has the right to extradite you, to take you back, and the other state cannot protect you. They must send you back. Yeah.
Let's say New York illegalizes marijuana and New Jersey specifically says that it's legal. What if you're in Massachusetts? What's the law? If there's no federal law.
There is a federal law, right? So the federal law is that it's illegal. And federal law trumps state law, right? So unless there's a specific change in that it's the case. Okay?
So if you like went to another state and killed someone there, would that be federal or state?
If the crime happens in a state, it would be a state crime.
Okay, and then who would handle that?
The state court.
The state that you committed it?
Correct.
Unless
Wherever you are. If I'm on vacation and I rob a bank, right, I will not be put on trial in Minnesota. I'd be put on trial in the state that I'm robbing. Okay? Okay. Last thing today. Okay? How to amend the Constitution. Okay? Bomb squad. Here we go. Okay, there is a way to amend the Constitution, but it's specifically designed to be challenging. They didn't want it to happen. Okay, so to propose an amendment, that's an S. What you need to have is a 2/3 vote in Congress, both the House and the Senate. Okay, or a national convention, okay, called by 2/3 of state legislatures. So 2/3 of 50 is, I don't know, 30,
would it be rounding up?
what, 37 maybe? Something like that? All right? No, it's more than that. Whatever it is.
like 34.
34. 34 states would have to come together and say, we want to have a national convention to propose the law. Okay? It then goes up for a debate if it's proposed, then to be ratified. Okay? What you need to have legislatures of 3/4 of the states. Okay, so 3/4 of the state legislatures must pass it, or state conventions of 3/4 of the states. So notice, in order to amend the Constitution, right? It occurs at what level of the government? State, right? They're at state levels, right? And that's designed to give power to the state. Okay? This is challenging to do, right? To amend the Constitution. There have only been 27 amendments, 17 since the first big batch went through.
The Bill of Rights.
The Bill of Rights, right. So the Bill of Rights is the first 10. That goes, since then, there have only been 17 more. And one of them was to get rid of an amendment that they already had, which was what? Prohibition, right. Okay. Questions about this? Judicial or executive branches? Yeah, Emily.
So let's say if prohibition was still right now, and someone on a reservation wanted to and they got
Wanted to drink?
what would happen there?
I think if you were a member of that tribe and you were on your reservation, you would be allowed to do that.
Should that be the same with like so could like kids drink on reservations these days? Like
I don't know.
under 21?
I don't know what that is. I don't know if they legally can or can't. It's a good question.
Because if they can have gambling, why wouldn't they be able to have drinking?
It's a good question. I do not know the answer to that, but I bet a simple Google search will get that answer. Any other questions before I stop this?